Stephen Mansfield, New York Times bestselling author and speaker.
Doug Tenaple, I'm the creator of Earthworm Jim.
Tweet groups.
I'm Victor Dweck.
Joseph Carter, I'm the Mink Man.
This is Dave Baker from Forged in Fire.
This is Leanne Morgan. I'm a comedian, and this is why you should never
Never.
Not ever.
Don't waste your time.
Oh, you really should.
listen to those darling, yummy Reverend and the Reprobate.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Reverend and the Reprobate. We are excited to have our dads on with us today. I'm Lucas Pinkert. I'll be playing the part of the Reverend. Danley Gibson is with me, as always, the Reprobate, repping a college that his child loves and he never went to. Alongside us...
Yeah, is that wrong? He didn't go to A&M, but he's got A&M on his truck.
When you pay for it, you get to...
Yeah, Greg Reed.
You pay for it, you get to do it.
So sitting to my left, you're right on the radio dial, is my dad, Scott Pinkard, who's getting his St. Arnold's root beer opened. What's up, Dad?
Hey, Lukey, how are you?
I'm fantastic.
Good.
And then next to him is somebody I'm going to let Danley introduce.
Mr. Gregory Nelson Gibson.
Oh, Nelson.
Thank you so much.
Nelson.
Yeah.
This is good to know.
So
How did you get the name Nelson?
Nelson is the name of my father's best friend who I never met.
how did Danley get the middle name English?
Okay, this is going to be the entire show now. Are you ready for that?
I'm ready.
That's a loaded question, and you know it.
It was from Dr. English.
Yes, that's an old family name from his side of the family. I mean, from his...
That's from Danley's side of the family.
I don't claim that side.
From his mother's side of the family. English is a last name from a couple generations back. Highly revered, the most popular name in American history, according to his grandmother.
Well done.
I heard it growing up every time I saw her.
Oh, Danley English.
Mm-hmm. And then she promised to give me a nickel to do something, and I never saw one.
If you had a nickel for every time she said she was going to give you a nickel.
Yeah, I'd have 0 nickels. But yeah, so thanks for coming.
Yeah, we had our moms on a couple of months ago. Actually, last month because of Mother's Day. Had them in studio. They were both very nervous. We talked to our dads about this. They needed no convincing to come on at all. While our moms, we needed to make up the story that the other mom had already said yes in order that they would come on.
I did set some ground rules, though.
Oh, okay. Let's talk Greg's ground rules.
I want to have the opportunity. I want to have the right to storm off and discuss at any point that I need to.
Well, that's why we trapped y'all in the back, so it would be really difficult.
That's it. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
And I think the chances of you storming off where there's Reese's on the table is very
well, and it would take me about 20 minutes to make the exit, which would be really awkward.
Danley had already mentioned, he was like, we need to be really careful because there's going to be people with hip problems that are going to be part of this episode. So
they're very hip.
Yeah, they're very super hip guys.
Well, we did think, with the moms having a little bit of a cold start, maybe we would do an icebreaker. So where do you guys lie on vaccinations? I'm just playing. That was not the icebreaker that we were going to go with.
The next question was, what do you think about LeBron James? So we just figured we'd start off with some easy stuff. Now, we do have a bunch of interesting questions for y'all, but we want to start off with some of the same things that we asked our moms to see whether or not the answers vary. All right? And the first thing that we want to know is, what do you think is the most annoying habit that our wives have?
That was a question that the mothers had to deal with?
Off air.
Well.
I was gonna say, I don't remember seeing that one.
So when we were growing up, Danley and I weren't the easiest kids to raise, we're sure. So what were our most annoying habits growing up?
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's the icebreaker.
Yeah, there's our intro.
And stop down.
Yeah.
Can we go with like a top 10?
Yeah. What's a top 10?
I don't know. It's overwhelming, the amount of information. It's like one of the screens off the Matrix. It's all this stuff. And
Just downloading ones and zeros.
I don't know what to pick.
Okay, tell you what. While you're thinking about that,
Mm-hmm.
What is each of your favorite Mel Brooks movies?
Oh, that's a lot easier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All of them.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But
I also have a hard time picking, but gun to your head with the 22.
I have to start out with the producers, as you would probably well know.
Yeah.
Because I think it's probably the best film ever made in the entire human history of
Oh, wow.
cinematographic opportunities. It is funny. It is beautifully crafted. It's a ode to 1960s filmmaking, which means you look at it and it's awful looking.
Yes, and super slow. I watched it for the first time
Which puts
yesterday.
a lot of people off because they look at it and think this looks like a bad 1950s film. It's like, well, no, but it was a bad 1960s film, but they knew it when they did it, and it's beautifully crafted. It was originally written as a short story that was then developed, and the publisher said this will never work as a short story. You should write it as a novel. And he wrote it as a novel. He said this will never work. You should write it as a play. Then he developed it out to a play, and they said this will never work. You should make a movie of it. They made the movie of it, and then made a play of it. And as far as I know, they hadn't come out with a book of it since then.
Remade the movie and just did a terrible
they
job.
just butchered it. So Kirsten and I both watched The Producers for the first time, and she thought it was okay.
Yeah.
She was not a fan of the secretary. She didn't think the secretary added much value to the movie at all.
Any woman in today's society would look at that and not really have much love for the secretary.
Where all the men look and say, "Oh,
yeah." That happened, and my she had her head on my shoulders, and I could feel her eyes roll whenever that happened. I was like, "Oh boy, weird."
I will say,
I didn't even bring it up on the way home.
There are very few people who watch The Producers that I turn them on to the film who come back and report to me that they love it nearly as much as I do.
There's few people that do.
Not many. Not many people like it very much. I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, everyone comes back and says, "Yeah, it was good." But and I always say this is one of the greatest films ever made.
Yeah,
it's
I
one of
think
my
so, too.
favorites. I love it. I love everything about it. And they'll come back and they'll say, it was okay.
So I did not inherit your woodworking love, but I did of the love of The Producers.
Yeah.
And Time Bandits. Another good movie.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to take your word for that one.
That's also
Let's check
great.
it out.
Time Bandits
Time Bandits
is
also
worth
great.
it.
All right.
It's probably easier for you to like than Producers, I bet.
I enjoy The Producers, but I would take your word for that as well. All
And
right,
Scooter.
what do you think? What's your favorite Mel Brooks movie?
Mel Brooks.
Yeah.
I have to say I've never seen The Producers, but I will now. I'll rectify that.
Make sure,
but don't
it's
watch the Will
right-
Ferrell one.
Yeah.
No.
As mom calls him that idiot. as soon as my mom sees anything with Will Ferrell, she's like,
Immediate
"Oh, not
stop
another
down.
movie with that idiot in it." She
This is
hates
the
it.
biggest stop down in the world.
Yeah.
She
That
cannot stand
multi-million
it.
dollar idiot.
Yeah,
that's the one. Okay.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
the one. She can't stand any of it. I would have just. Everything that I've seen of his, I really appreciate the body work. And just when I was listening to Greg talk about this stuff with making The Producers, I was just thinking, how talented is this guy to have gone through all these different, these different building blocks with this one thing, and he had a passion for this one thing, and he took it from this step to that step to this step and circled back around, and 99.9% of the people that I know would have blown it up after the second go around on that.
He started out as a writer on your show of shows at Sid Caesar Radio, so that his credentials as a writer goes back that far in terms of the amount of talent that he's been able to.
So these guys,
And he's best friends with Carl Reiner.
Yeah,
let's see. So growing up with him, you know who Sid Caesar is,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, well, at least you're aware of it.
I'm
right?
aware of him.
You're aware of it. Yeah. So anyway, I appreciate that because, my generation, we would have been on the very edge of having any kind of relevance to us at all. So
Sid Caesar, you mean? Not Mel Brooks, though.
not Mel Brooks.
No, he was like in y'all's wheelhouse.
Oh gosh.
Blazing
yes,
Saddles,
yes.
Young Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The History of the World.
Spaceballs.
Spaceballs.
Stuff that I enjoyed.
Just
Stuff that I
ridiculous.
enjoyed with my
All
kids.
ridiculous.
And
Yeah, Spaceballs you could enjoy with kids.
very few of his things I could enjoy.
Where
with my
they're combing the sand.
Yeah. And then they have the pick. Yeah.
So-
that was pretty awesome. Because Spaceballs was one of the first. That was my first exposure to Mel Brooks, and I think the second one was Robin Hood Men in Tights.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
Which is another just absolute classic.
tights.
Yep. We knew.
There's squirrels.
We knew
we can bless them all until we get vishnicked.
We knew both the dance and every word to that song whenever we were growing up.
Back
So
to the annoying habits.
All right, here we go. Answers to the questions we all really want to know.
Maybe now that you bring that up, that might have been one. He has a pretty good memory, but
Oh my
it
gosh,
seems
it's so annoying.
But it seems like the more obscure and the more annoying he could bring that stuff. Yeah. So he'll remember something from 15 years ago and just spit it out word for word, and looking at you the whole time, knowing that you didn't want to hear it 15 years ago. You surely don't want to hear it now. Just nonstop. Just.
Well, that was what did Colton bring up the other day? The cartoon song. Do you remember
When
you remember
cartoons got saved.
Yeah. Do you remember that song? No. What if cartoons got saved? Oh, it was such a beating. It was on KLTY all the time.
They did the
I
Smurfs.
was thinking the other day.
Yeah,
Smurfs.
So they start. Colton brings it up, and then he just like brings up one thing.
Oh,
he's like,
poor
and
kid.
the whole song just starts playing in my head, and I'm singing it like
Yabba dabba doo.
like you
crap.
just heard it yesterday.
Yes,
right?
it's the worst.
Okay, next topic. Fathers do a lot of the discipline in the house, right?
Yes.
So rank your top 5 spankings.
That I received or that I gave?
No, that you distributed. That you distributed.
We must have done something that just really just extra pissed you off. And you go, this is number 1 right here.
Just top of the list. See, moms didn't get all of these questions.
Yeah.
These are different than the mom questions.
Major would probably disagree.
Okay.
But I don't recall that I ever gave any spankings. I probably did, but we didn't do that a lot.
Well, and now
We grounded.
me.
We we did other things.
Do you regret that now?
You
that
may
you see
disagree. But I honestly can't recall giving any.
Well, so the follow-up question is,
I think you did,
now
but
that
I don't
you
have anything that sticks out of my mind.
Yeah,
either,
now
so
that
I'm
you
with
see what he's grown up into, do you regret not giving more spankings?
There could have been a little more work done, I'm sure.
I just don't remember. I don't remember any of it being like real formative, real pleasant. I don't
remember any of it being real
so
pleasant either.
Wow, that was great. Can I have another one?
I don't really think that there's.
This feels like so much personal growth.
I don't know that I could rank the top 5. I could probably think of a time where I should have gone to that instead of something else. But,
Yeah, potentially.
But yeah, I would much rather talk it out, and I think those are, for me,
and then hit us for no reason.
Yeah,
that's I'd rather just knock my kid out, catch him off guard.
Basically, that's more fun.
Okay.
Oops. Maybe.
What we really wanted to get at?
You know, you had that coming.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. What thing that we did that we got in trouble for, right? Do you secretly wish you would have gotten to be a part of?
Like you get home, mom's all kinds of mad,
furious,
and she tells you about it.
Wait till you talk to your father,
and you have to bite your tongue to stop from laughing.
Yeah, because you're
that
like,
sounds awesome.
You know what? Yeah.
Is there a scenario that you?
I can't remember a specific one, but if there was, it was with you and Benjamin, and Leslie and Eric. I would assume would have been in cahoots doing something.
Getting into a little bit of trouble.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. There was some of that.
I would see that.
There was the wall of fire.
Okay, so this has been alluded to several times, and I'm finally just going to call
you on it. Is this the napalm
incident?
incident?
No, this is different.
I'm interested in the wall of fire, Danley.
This is different. So
the statute of limitations is up.
Statute of limitations.
Yeah, we are putting together the statute of limitations right now.
So we got a bunch of toilet paper, and we weren't exactly sure what was going to happen with it. And we did have some of the homemade napalm also.
Yeah.
So
it's always a good start.
It's a great start.
We were out in the woods late at night. Ooh. It was probably 2 a.m. Yeah. You were not aware that we weren't in the house. I'm just telling you the truth. This is what it is now. And it was on, I don't remember exactly where it was, but it was a non-used street or a very rural, little road with nothing around it, just trees. And we lined the road with toilet paper and then the gasoline, and then we waited. So the best part of this story, and I'm sorry that it's not a great story for those that are listening. I mean, I wouldn't recommend it, but I just love it from the perspective of the driver. That at 2 a.m. driving on a rural road, all of a sudden a wall of fire comes across, 6 feet tall, with all of this toilet paper and burnt and gasoline. They had to have thought that the devil was coming for them. So that is one story that I've never told before.
I can beat that.
Oh
yes, ready.
This is full confessional time here. This
Perfect.
Is,
I like this. This is what we brought y'all
No
on for.
matter how stupid anything that you did was,
no way,
I can beat it.
Wow, this is impressive.
Back when I was in junior high, there's a good friend of mine and I who were really into thinking we could design and make rockets.
Sweet.
And not only that, we could design and make our own gunpowder for said rockets.
So it's the plot of what's the
Red Duck? No.
Yeah. You know what I'm talking about. October something.
Yeah.
October Sky.
Yeah.
The kids making the rockets.
So and I don't remember exactly what it is. Plus, I probably shouldn't say for the kids of America I don't want to tell them how to make gunpowder, but it involves charcoal, saltpeter, and something else. I don't know which. And again, probably best that I don't give it out anyway. But we make our own gunpowder. And then, of course, we could make our own rockets. Didn't really have a lot of material for the rockets, so we would just take, Coke cans and cut them up, and build them into said rocket shapes. So we would make the little feet for the Coke cans out of the same.
You're like, there we go.
Out of the same aluminum of the thing. They looked like they would stand up, and then we would pack them full of gunpowder.
Right.
And attach a fuse, and we would light it and run away. And invariably, it would just fall over and. But when I think of how close I came to just blowing myself up, honestly, probably 50 times. We never got any better at it. But
you're like, maybe we should try a Dr. Pepper can next.
We didn't blow ourselves up. We didn't burn anybody or anything up like we absolutely by all rights should have.
Yeah.
But I look back and I'm thinking, how incredibly dumb was that? To make your own gunpowder, pack it into a tightly contained, thinly metal object, and set it and run away and hope you're not going to die about 5 seconds later.
That seems like something that Jeff Allen would like. That's a Jeff Allen story. Like, that's the America I grew up. He was telling a story on one of his most recent videos that he posted about how he used to go to the ice cream man and ask for dry ice because you could just get it from the ice cream man. His buddy told him if you put dry ice in a mason jar, it'll blow up. He's like, all right, cool. Where do I get dry ice? And he goes, the ice cream man. So he goes to the ice cream man and goes, hey, you got any dry ice? And the ice cream man's like, what are you going to do? He goes, I'm going to put it in a mason jar and it'll blow up. He's like, oh, that sounds cool. Here you go. Here's your dry ice. Here you go.
Knock yourself out, kid.
Yes, this is going to be great. Enjoy it.
So he says that night his mom's picking glass out of his forehead. And his dad goes, you, who told you this? He's like, my buddy Tommy down the road told me if I put dry ice in a mason jar, it would blow up. He goes, you knew it would happen, and you just stood there and looked at it. And he was like, yeah. He goes, chances you're going to do that again? He said, probably not. That's how
not that exact thing.
Listen. Yeah.
It's the best.
Yeah, that's it. So I've got a story. Danley and I were talking about this beforehand. We wanted, like, what were the stories growing up that, like, you wanted your dad to tell whenever everybody was around or whatever. We got in trouble. I don't know if you remember this or not. At Paul Miles, like his 40th or 50th birthday party, right? When Paul Miles was one of Dad's friends that he grew up with, and Dad was always telling stories whenever we were growing up. And so we just thought that everybody he hung out with had also told their kids these awesome stories. They had not. And so we are sitting around with the other kids, and the other kids are like, not my dad. And we're like, yeah, our dads were awesome. And they're like, my dad sucks. I was like, well, but it's so weird. My dad thought your dad was pretty cool back in the day. Well, so as they're leaving, right, one of the wives pulls my mom aside and was like, look, you need to tell your boys to stop telling stories because we've made deals. All of the other wives had made deals with their husbands. Like, you're not telling our kids what you did in high school. I think my mom probably made the same deal with my dad, but it was like out the window at one point.
As soon as she shut the door.
Yeah.
I was on one side, she was on the other.
So the story was the one that got us in trouble that night was the story of Kendall's little brother. And,
mafia.
Yeah, the mafia story. Yeah, so please, if you would indulge us.
We're listening.
So we had a family that we went to school with. I went to school with them off and on through elementary. So my family, we stayed in the same area. Like growing up, my parents were basically, before I came along, they were like nomads. My brothers and sisters, they went to school in just about every state west of here. So Texas, New Mexico,
Arizona,
California, Colorado. I mean, they went to school in all these states, right? Me, Texas. Matter of fact, same school district. My whole life, same school district. So there was this
same
brother,
house, almost your whole life.
Yeah, pretty much. We had
from like age 4 or 5 on.
Yeah. So we had these two kids. They would be in our school district or in our elementary school classes for a year and a half. Then they would be gone. They were from New York. And then they would be gone back to New York. And then, well, never seen. Then, a year or two later, they're back. And that they went through this cycle all the way through high school. They'd be here, back and forth. So the younger of the two, this kid's name was Robbie. He became really good friends with one of my best friends, his little brother, the two brothers, Robert and Robbie. They were.
That's easy to remember.
They didn't go like Bob for one of them.
No. Oh, no. They were Robert and Robbie.
Robert and Robbie.
And so, being older and, we constantly abused them. Just constantly abused them. So Robbie's older sister was a very pretty girl. And apparently her boyfriend from New York had some stalker issues, and he was part of some mafia gang, or he had some kind of connections with the mafia. And she had came down, and they came down here looking for her, and the people from New York, and she was in hiding here. And anyway, so Robert and Robbie, their parents, I don't want to mention her name, but their parents were out of town. So Robert and Robbie were staying the night together at their house, at the parents' house. So we're just sitting around bored, and then David says, we're, I don't know, what do we want to do? And we talked, and it was around midnight. We should have been going home. And then he said, you know what? My little brother's over at Robbie's house right now, and they're terrified because the mafia, they're scared the mafia is going to come down and look for him. It's like, what? And he starts giving me the backstory. And, Robbie's sister, I was like, oh, wow, that's crazy, And we're like, oh, man, that's messed up for her, right? And then we're like, let's go terrify them. So they're 16. They're at their house. They have no transportation, right? They're at the house where the mafia is.
And you mentioned they're 16, so they're dumb.
They're epically dumb. They're like, even for 16, I feel like they were stunted 16-year-olds. So we go over to the house, and like I said, it starts at around midnight. We go over to the house, and there's 5 of us. Anyway, we get out of this. We all go over there in David's truck, single cab. Back in the day, nobody had king cabs, dual cabs. This is 70s, early 80s. Single cab pickup. We're all either 3 of us are in the cab, whoever else is in the back. Right?
Yeah.
So I remember. Well, it wasn't the 70s; it was the 80s. But Mom's truck. Getting in the back. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no,
I should not have interrupted for
it's all good.
Stupid comment.
No, it's all good. So I don't want to edit it out, though. I really
that's what
just
somebody
that
asked. What's our show? They're like, what's your show like? And Will's wife was like, it's funny and awkward.
Yeah, it's funny and awkward. So we go over to the house, and we all pile out of the truck, and we're like, what are we gonna do, right? And then so we just surround the house. So a few of us are more nimble than the others. So me and David and our buddy Paul, we all jump in the backyard. So we're going up to the windows, and we're scratching on the windows, and we're kind of rattling them, not really trying to get in, but just trying to. And so, but we do it all at every side of the house. We've got the house surrounded, and so everything's cool, everything's great. And this one buddy of ours just gets up to the front door, throws the screen door open and starts beating on the front door and screaming, "Roy, get out!" So it's midnight. We're terrified. It's Texas, right? I'm native Texan, so I'm like, oh, somebody's gonna shoot us. We're dead. So we all freak out and just take off running. We all pile in the truck and we're rolling and we're just flying through town and going to the other side of the town. We get over to David's house and that's it. The end of the night, right? And we're like, oh man, we were laughing and carrying on, and you're like, good grief, what were you thinking? Why did you go up to the door? And so anyway, okay, well, let's all go home. And then we're like, God, that was too much fun. Let's go back.
So you went back and got him again.
Yeah. So then, you know, like I said, it's midnight. Night's over for everybody, right? So we pile back in the truck. We head back over there. This time, we're like, let's not go to the house, right? There's an elementary school. Let's park at the elementary school. That way they don't hear us coming. They don't see the truck out front, because the truck would, if they would have looked out front, they would have noticed that it was his truck, because white cab, green bed. Perfect high school Texas kid truck, because, you know, he's ran over everything in town.
Right, that gets respect on the highway. When you've got different colored panels. Right. Like, you know what, maybe switch lanes, honey.
So the cab is white, and the bed's green two-tone Big Ten bed.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So anyway, so we park at the elementary school, and it's about a 100-yard walk, right? So we're walking over there like, okay, everybody be cool. Nobody lose their joke. We're talking to one friend in particular, like, dude, I don't know what you were doing last time, but don't do that again. Let's really try and freak them out. So we go into the backyard.
It's subtlety.
It's
that
it's
really
subtlety.
gets to people.
Right.
Screaming does get an effect, but you can really mess them up with subtlety.
Yes. So we were really trying to go in and make them think that we're trying to break in the house.
Right.
And, you know, that there are people.
Not a bang, but picking a lock.
And that there's not a part of the house that they can go into where somebody's not trying to get in that room.
Yeah.
So terror was the main objective. And we were successful at it. And even the first time we were successful at it. So second time around, we're there. We're all at the house, and we've got it surrounded again.
It sounds like you taught them a lesson for whatever you were trying to.
The lessons just keep on going. Just keep on going. So we go through everybody's practicing subtlety. We're all in the backyard. We're being quiet, and then
psychological warfare.
And then I see this one buddy of ours, and he's flying across the backyard. I'm like, wow, where's he going? Not thinking I should be going with that guy. Thinking,
what's he running from? That I should also run from.
He looks extraordinarily petrified right now. Why am I not joining him? So I don't. So I'm still doing my thing, and then I see another guy. Boom, he's gone. And this guy gets to the fence. Jumps it. It's a little 4-foot cyclone fence. I don't know that he could. He said he didn't know he could jump it. He was nervous. He cleared it, no problem.
All right, so that much adrenaline's happening.
Two are gone, right? And I'm like, well, that's weird. And then this other buddy who had been beating on the door earlier, this guy, right? He runs by me. He's a big guy. He's a big guy. He runs by me and just slaps me on the shoulder. And he doesn't stop. He's just chugging. And he's a man. I'm like, what? And I look, and the next door neighbor is standing out there in his underwear, right? He's leaning on the fence. He goes, like, what are y'all doing? And I'm like, oh, man.
We're being mafia.
I'm like,
we're being mafia.
Exactly. I didn't say anything. I was just like, I'm out. So I took off running. I clear the fence. Well, my buddy who tapped me, right, he's a bigger guy, and he's not nearly as fast as I was. So I get to the fence. I don't even think about touching it. I jump over the fence. I'm gone. As I'm clearing the fence,
that is the law of the battlefield.
Yeah, absolutely. When you're the mafia, this is how you do things.
Every man for himself.
So I clear the fence, and as we get to the fence, he's just like, he's looking at me, and I'm like, you know, and I'm in midair, and he just eats it. just runs straight into the fence, falls over on his back, and I'm just still going. So we look back and they're like, where's the other guy? I'm like,
he's dead.
He got him. He ran into the fence, and we're halfway to the truck, and we're kind of walking now. We turn back and look, and he's just walking. He's still in the backyard. he just walks from one side of the yard to the other, opens the gate, lets himself out, and takes off. So we all get back together, and we're like, oh, we're laughing. We're hilarious, and we've entertained ourselves all night. Well, then my buddy Dave calls me the next morning about 9:00. He goes, man, will you talk to my brother? I'm like, sure. He goes, you're not going to believe it, dude. You're not going to believe it. They really thought it was the mafia. I was like, I believe that part. He goes, they called the cops. I'm like, oh, my God, I don't believe that. So I never thought about them calling the cops. So they called the cops. I'm trying to convince Robert and Robbie that it was us. And they're like, dude, there's no way it was y'all. It was the mafia. We were so terrified the mafia was there. And I explained everything that happened. And he goes, no, because I told the cops. When they got there, I said, look, I know that they were driving a Chevy pickup with a 6-cylinder motor in it because it sounded exactly like my brother's truck. Back to maybe not the brightest 2 16-year-olds ever. I'm like,
sounded and looked like my brother.
Like you just said. It sounded. We were in the front yard. We drove off. The second time, we parked at the elementary school so you wouldn't hear us. And then it started clicking with him. So then he just throws the phone down, and David gets on the phone. And he goes, dude, let me tell you what they did. So they called the cops. They're crawling around inside the house. Both of them, they were in the bed. They're crawling around on the bellies inside the house.
Serpentining through the house.
Trying to figure out how to defend themselves. Totally terrified because somebody's in every room. They can't go into a room where they're in here, they're in there, they're in here. They're crying. They had called the cops. The cops show up. As soon as the cop car pulls up in front of the house, this is after we'd been there the second time, right? The cop car pulls up in front of the house. They take off running outside. Robert's the first one to the cop car, and he's like, oh my God. And he turns around and runs back in the house. And Robbie's running toward the cop car. He goes, no. And he's like, and Robbie's looking at him, and they're both running. And it was 2 female cops. They're girls.
They ran outside in their whitey-tighties to 2 female officers.
And when the female officers, they said that the 2 female officers were just about to die laughing. They could not compose themselves.
The mafia's here. They're not.
So anyway.
Sounds like it might have been your brother.
You're an idiot.
Yeah. Right. So it was pretty. That was a fun night.
That is hysterical.
So that's the story that we weren't allowed to tell the other kids, that we were so excited to tell them because we'd heard this story so many times. We're like, and your dad did this, and your dad did this, and these other kids are like, our dad didn't do
Their
that.
dad was the one, the
Our
wild
dad
man.
is lame.
Their dad
he just
was
watches ESPN.
right. Their dad was the wild man who went to the front door and tried to beat the door down.
Yeah.
That
That's
was
a
their dad.
great short story.
Yeah,
His
mom or his wife, their mom was livid.
Oh, she was losing
She
her
was
mind.
so mad. She pulled my mom aside and was like, "You," and we're like, "What is wrong?"
Those
with
kids
that
had
lady?
no idea that their dad was an absolute wild man. Like he was in everything we did. He was the wild card. I mean, everything we did. He was like, okay, we got this. And we'd look at him and be like, okay, everybody else, right? The one thing we could count on is we couldn't count on him to do, and it was what was great about being around him. It was fun.
I also had a wild card in my crew.
Dan Lee.
I know, but I'm not going to say, but this person may have lit off fireworks in Walmart.
Oh yeah, I know who you're talking about now.
Yeah. You also know who I'm talking about. But,
Yeah,
but
there's a short list of
you may have-
possibilities.
You may have some names going through your
Yeah.
head. One of them, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just in that Rolodex, stop at J, and you're gonna you're getting warm. You're getting warm if you're there.
So when we were talking about stories that our dads told, I thought of the telemarketer story with Papa. Do you remember?
Stories.
Yeah, there's several, but do you remember the details of those?
My father
That's a yes.
was certifiably insane. We'll start there. in a very charming way, and he reveled in the idea that he could just mess with anyone who called up on any kind of a phone solicitor.
Right.
He took it as his God-given right to mess with him for as long as he could drag out the conversation.
Okay.
When I think of, let's see, he had who was the
There was a carpet guy.
there was the dance instructor Arthur
Murray.
Arthur Murray, a reference that neither of you guys would know.
No.
They were at that point a big chain of dance studios. You could go learn to ballroom dance.
Oh yeah.
And they were selling lessons at the Arthur Stewart. And he had this guy going for a while that that my dad had he had no legs. Yet really wanted to learn how to dance. And was really interested in how they could accommodate that. I mean, and he just tooled this
Arthur
guy.
Murray for our
very
audience.
nice.
Behind you.
Yeah, there's
If you cared.
There you go.
Absolutely.
Well played.
Yeah, he did.
Nicely done.
Everything well is him.
Yeah. So
Everything root beer is me.
He had this poor
Ruben's
guy going for at
perfectly
least
played.
10-15 minutes about how this guy was going to try to help this guy who had no legs learn how to ballroom dance. Which is wildly wonderful of the salesperson, but incredibly funny at the time when my dad did it. He also was the carpet, I guess.
There was the funeral plot, or the
I don't remember
the burial plots.
You may have heard this one. So
Well, they called to ask about purchasing your
Yes.
forever home.
Yeah.
You're forever. You're forever.
Yeah. And yeah, it was a funeral plot salesman offering up this great deal to be able to have a forever place for you and your lovely bride and your children. And he had the guy convinced that that we buried all of our family out in the backyard. Aunt Myrtle and Uncle Jim were already there.
In fact, we just
Fantastic.
put Aunt Jenny in last week.
Oh, I'm so happy right now.
Carpet salesman. I kind of stole this one from him, but he had the carpet salesman guy call one time, and he convinced them that they had taken all the carpet out of the house and replaced it with sand.
Oh, this is extremely original.
I mean, just
great.
My favorite detail to that was that he asked him if they also sold rakes.
Yeah.
He was genius.
Oh, he was just great.
was
He was just
genius.
great. He was.
Speaking
That's
of which,
fantastic.
Yeah.
so I need one more story.
Is this the song?
No, this is not Old Kate Smith.
Okay, because we need old Kate Smith also.
Okay, well, we can.
But we'll do that after.
Old Kate
Yeah.
Smith is, in terms of a storytelling, Old Kate Smith is on the way up to a climax.
Okay.
So Old Kate Smith would be good.
Okay.
So Kate Smith was a singer, famous singer. I don't know when. You would know
40s.
Do you remember Kate Smith, or have you heard of the name?
I've probably heard
Well,
the
my
music.
grandfather was obsessed with this lady.
Her big hit was "God Bless America," like in the 40s or something like that.
Okay.
So that's kind of the era.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he made up a song. I don't really want to get into this. Actually,
You kind of kicked
too
this.
late. Yeah,
you
it's
started
too late.
kicking this can down the road. You kind of have to go there now.
This is You Are the Reprobate.
Absolutely.
but now it's gonna be all fat shaming.
Yeah. There's no saving this story, but it's still funny.
Yeah. So he wrote it. Do you know what tune that is? Is it like a? I mean, I don't think he made the tune up. He added lyrics to a famous tune.
Yeah, I forgot what it was now.
Old Kate Smith was a big
fat lady, oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Started out as a big fat baby, oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And then he'd make up.
Yeah, and then
a
the
verse
rest of the
here.
song, the da 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 da. Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Couldn't
oh,
see
yeah.
her toes because of those and those and those.
There were There were 7,000 verses written to that song over the family years. I mean, it became an Olympic sport within the family to write old Kate Smith verses.
3 generations of writing old Kate Smith lyrics.
There's nothing defendable about it from a fat shaming standpoint, but it's just it is glorious from a family history standpoint.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just so much fun.
Some of my
so
favorite memories of Papa are sitting at Luby's and singing lyrics to him to see if he would laugh.
Yeah,
most of the time he would, because he was like, "This is great that my grandson's writing lyrics about how big she is. Well, she's gonna need more of a zip code. She's gonna be her own."
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I can't remember any of them, but I mean, when I first got my first Pro Tools recording set up at home, I mean, I got it for Christmas, whenever that was, a long time ago. The very first song that I recorded was me playing all the parts and doing "Oh Kate Smith" with 4-part harmony, and I was so ready to play it for my dad, because
how old were you?
I was an adult, but I mean it was whatever it was 10, 15 years ago, or 20 years ago, or 30 years ago, or 40 years ago.
It's so great.
But yeah, I mean that was the level of import it was from a cultural standpoint in the family.
That's awesome.
I got a new Old Yo Kate song or Old Kate Smith verse. I'm just waiting to kind of drop it on everyone the next time we have another competition.
There's new bars of Old Kate Smith, yo.
I've got these tucked away. I cannot wait to drop this on the fam.
Kale's gonna put a drum beat to it.
Yeah, he could.
It's so fantastic.
Kale Gibson and Travis
So
Scott present Old Kate Smith.
We have this thing that's not nearly at that level, but my mom did this thing for my brothers and sisters. The first 3, there's 5 of us total, but the first 3 are close to 20 years older than me.
Yeah,
and so I have nieces and nephews that are almost the same age I am. So I was
like 3 years older than your closest niece or nephew.
I was an uncle at 3, so. But my mom
Uncle Scotty
did this thing. Oh, yeah. So my mom did this thing where she would get up in the mornings and sing "Good Morning to You."
It was so terrible.
It's the most heinous thing you've ever heard in your life. So the first time I saw All in the Family and Edith Bunker is there at the piano and she starts singing, I'm like, they stole this from my mom. This idea, because this level of screeching and just heinous, never even finding a key, has to be intentional, or it has to be my mom doing "Good Morning to You." Yeah. And it's the only thing I've ever heard her sing in my life. But she was, and it was heinous. But everybody. So now we're 3-4 generations into the family now.
Still singing it.
Yeah.
Everybody.
And
like there's one person in each generation that gets grandmother's singing voice. And it's always it's always like one of our she's a beautiful young girl, and then she goes to sing and you're like, "Oh, you're the Antichrist."
How's it possible you're actually trying to do that?
Yeah, so
she sings like the seagull from Little Mermaid.
Yes. So my cousin that just got married, we were talking about the song, right? And her husband was like, "Oh, I've never heard about this song." And then my other cousin who's there with us, she's talking to her husband. He's like, "Yeah, I thought this song was like a myth." And everybody at the table were like, "No, it's not." My cousin on her wedding day is like, "Oh yeah, grandmother used to sing 'Good morning to you,' and everybody, all the rest of the cousins at the tables, we just looked at each other and we're like, "She's got grandmother's voice." That's it. And now I think the next one that's gonna have it is gonna be
granddaughter.
Yeah, it's gonna be
It's my
Eleanor
granddaughter,
Thomas's.
Ellie.
Yeah, Thomas.
She's 2.
I heard her sing. So she loves Frozen, and we started to sing "Let It Go." We were like, "Let it go, let it go," and Kirsten, my wife, started singing. She's got this beautiful singing voice, and then we stopped because we heard Eleanor go, "Let it go," like she sounds like she's breathing and singing.
Right.
It's don't get back anymore.
She's 2, and it's so fantastic though. You just want to you stop everything you're doing so that you can hear her, and then she looks at you like,
what are you doing?
like sing. Yeah, and then she'll quit. But it's amazing.
Yeah, it's like somebody forgot to cover up the trach hole and just let her go at it.
It really is. It really is.
All right, I think this is the last story that I'll ask for, but
okay.
I don't know that you've actually told me this as much as I've heard it from other people of this story that happened to you. As a new tradition, that you didn't, that you
I know where this is going.
that you
I'm interested.
thankfully did not pass on.
This has to do with deer hunting.
It is the deer butthole story. And this may get cut on
And
the
that's not a
editing
letter.
form.
That's not deer butthole.
Comma. How dare you?
As I had the story told to me by my father, who I again refer to the fact is certifiably insane.
And is this a true story, or was this a...
Oh, this happened to Gary at least, my brother.
Okay.
I know it happened at least once. And it may be the only time just because it was the opportunity my dad had to do this.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, the certifiably insane father of mine, grandfather of him.
Hysterical.
Gosh, legend.
The myth, the legend.
Yeah.
We used to go deer hunting down in South Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And as I understand it, I don't think I was even on this hunt. I was probably too young. But Gary, my older brother, by about 5 years, was deer hunting, and he got his first deer. And my father set it up as it will. Well, of course, it's a ancient hunter's tradition. Actually, let me tell the story a different way. So they're gutting the deer as you do.
Right.
You field dress the deer.
Yeah.
You cut everything out, and you have to kind of cut around the south end of the northbound deer.
Right.
And he ultimately kind of just pop it loose. Well, when he popped it loose, it hit Gary right in the face. So I'm told, was not there.
Right.
But he got a schnoz full of the deer butthole. And my dad, at that point, defended the accident as well. No, that's really a time-honored tradition.
That makes more sense.
Because
the myth is that he took it and rubbed it right across the face and said, "You're a man now."
That's probably what. I'm sure that's the story he told afterwards.
That's how the story was built up.
Yeah,
that makes a lot more sense.
But the time-honored tradition was that when you have your first kill, the time-honored tradition is you have to have the anus of the fallen rubbed across your face.
I'm glad that wasn't David's deal with Saul when he was going to collect all the foreskins.
And I think we have a title for this episode.
The anus of the fallen. The Reverend, the Reprobate, and their dads.
Oh my gosh.
Hey, do you guys want to hear a story about Michael Jackson?
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Yeah. Hey, Colton, do your trick.
We gotta find another way to say that.
I like this way. Go ahead.
I don't like you telling me to do my trick.
I'm interested.
Okay, Scott, you'll really like this one. I just want to hear you laugh because it makes me smile. Okay, so I worked with a guy at this church I worked for before I came here, and he was on tour with Michael Jackson. And this was the first time that they were shooting people up from the stage. So
like rocketing.
Yeah,
them.
they like had him in the trap.
This wasn't camera angles shooting them up.
Yeah. Nor was it like a drug dealer that's down there like shooting them up.
So we all have our terms.
More explanation. Not
Okay,
this guy.
Yeah, not this guy. Yeah, not that. I can't find a vein, buddy.
Shooting him up into the air from the bottom of the stage.
Yep.
Okay.
So they load him up in their chart, or they're trying to find somebody that's the same size as Michael so that they can test it because they're scared to put Michael in it for the first time. They're having a hard time finding somebody, and Michael's like, "It's okay, I'll do it."
Nicely done.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Now I know why it says do your trick.
Yeah. So they drop Michael into the trap. Well, he gets into the stage, and they shoot him up into the air. Well, he flies up and hits the lighting truss in the ceiling and falls back down and hits the ground. So everybody in the room goes silent because they're all either thinking we killed Michael Jackson or we all don't have jobs and now we have to figure out how to pay rent. Well, in the silence, you hear Michael say, "I think that was a little too high."
There you go, and that's Colton's Michael Jackson story.
And that's my trick.
Nicely
Where's
done.
my treat?
Yeah.
Well done, Colton.
Okay.
Thank you, Colton.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you, Colton.
We're going to have story time
And-
with Colton, and it's always going to be the same story. We're just going to
every
see how
time.
our guests react.
And for
Ready,
our
set,
next
go.
bit, please rank your children in terms of numerical order.
Yes.
On what value?
Born first.
Oh, well, that would be Danley.
That's-
Oh,
that's
hey,
easy.
Danley, you're first on
I'm
his
number
side. Who's first on your side?
That'd have to be Lucas.
Yeah, we win.
Yeah.
There we go. Sorry,
Congratulations.
other siblings.
Scoreboard.
Yeah,
Which-
the other five of
which-
you did not quite make the cut as being the firstborn.
Since both of our sisters are married, which one of our sisters' boyfriends did you hate the most?
Oh yeah.
And you don't have to answer this if you don't want to.
Hold on, like
I know which one I hated the most.
basketball head.
Oh yeah, it was either basketball head or it was Bert, and we don't have any risk. Now Austin listens to the podcast, but he's
Forgot
heard
about
all
Bert.
these stories. Kelsey doesn't care about anything that I do. If I'm doing it, she immediately assumes it's not worth listening or paying attention to. So no risk here.
Same with my sister.
Yeah,
I love you, Julia. You're not watching anyway.
yeah.
so-
She's
You'll
much
never
too
hear that.
bougie to listen to the podcast. So
You'll never hear that.
I think Danley had the same experience that I did when we talked about, hey, we're going to have the moms on. Everybody's like, oh, great, yeah, have mom on. That'll be really sweet. When we said we're going to have our dads on, both of our sisters, I think, were like, listen, don't do anything to embarrass Dad. Don't say anything to make Dad look bad. Dad
We
has
got
a job.
threats.
Yeah, we get this whole like talking to.
You got that too?
About yeah.
'Cause I heard that. I mean, both of
Yeah.
the other brother and sister
Yeah.
And I was
laid
like, guys,
down the law to him.
I'm gonna have Reese's and bullets.
Yeah, like, what do you think we're gonna do? You think we're like gotcha journalism in our dads?
That means we did a good job with our daughters.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
Yeah.
she's very protective. She
like,
she
what the
absolutely just
heck?
laid down the law to him. It's like,
That's
do not do this,
fantastic.
do not do that.
Don't bring up blank. And I have not.
Yeah,
and
what
I'm
makes
not
you think
going
that that's
to.
what we're gonna do? Like that's really gonna get us ratings? watch the Reverend and the Reprobate cancel their dad.
got his father fired.
Yeah. Well, I really got my
good.
big break when I screwed over my dad.
By the way, he lives with me now.
Yeah, it was great.
Nobody
It's been a
wants
great
that to
life.
happen.
Super awesome.
Nobody wants
Yeah,
that to
like,
happen.
what the heck?
Oh yeah, if you get me
Okay.
fired, I'm moving in.
So we'll skip the sister boyfriend because they probably wouldn't like that.
But
They don't
Bert
watch
and
it.
basketball head do have to be
Yeah.
two that you know what?
yeah.
Never mind.
So instead of that, which of our friends did you dislike the most, and why was it Jared and Brandon? They also don't listen to the show, so it's fine.
Yeah, that's it. Danley originally wanted to do this podcast with Jared, but after months of not getting returned calls, he was like,
He settled for you.
Heather, call Lucas and see if he's got a schedule.
It's not true.
Yeah.
They still owe me money.
Oh,
Oh
that's
yeah,
true.
probably.
Well,
Well, there
Wow.
you go. Easy.
Do you
yeah,
remember?
I'm gonna. They owe Greg money. That's
They
why.
owe Greg money.
That's why.
So Jared, I don't know if you remember this. Jared got a tattoo on his.
You know what? I had to spend a lot of time saving Jared's life. so Jared has no idea what he owes me. But I had to call the dogs off Jared many, many times. Nearly physical restraints involved.
You stopped just at the ledge.
Right.
Yeah.
Darren got a tattoo on his, and then he just
And then I
stopped.
stopped, right?
Yeah.
Because I knew
Yeah.
like if I kept going, it's gonna get a response at some point. I found it.
Oh no, I knew where you were going, and that's why I was like, I'll just head this up. I saved Jared's life multiple.
This
multiple
was actually
occasions.
this
Can
was
you
actually
give
the
one
conversation.
example? 'Cause I'm curious. Was it keeping angry mothers away from him?
No.
Okay.
No.
Then
It was-
I don't know what you're talking about.
It was Angry Brothers.
Yeah.
Who?
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, that
Well,
was it. Jared,
Because he got this tattoo, and he
got it on his
started-
waistline.
Yeah, and he started
The
showing
wings.
it. He
Yeah.
started showing it to my wife, and
Bad call.
in front of the two brothers, and
Oh.
Yeah.
bad
So
call.
he
He
started
poor
to-
judgment.
Ways to make sure that I can get killed.
Show had betrayal to friend's mom.
Let's start with Tammy.
Bad mood. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
so-
so I saved his life on many occasions.
Yeah,
he has no
he
idea.
started to edge down the top of his
she was
basketball
like,
shorts
"Oh,
to
no,
show
no."
it, and Mom went, "Oh," and covered her eyes, and both of my brothers stepped forward,
They
and
materialized.
Dad grabbed the boy boys, and I chucked Jared out of the door. And then both of my brothers were on me, and they're like, I can't believe you almost let him do that. I was like, I did not know what he was doing.
I didn't know he was going to flash Mom.
And I was like, don't worry, the tattoo's not as low as it seemed. And yeah.
And he didn't.
Nope.
No,
But
but
he didn't.
the optics of it from where everyone was standing
just bad.
It was terrible.
But that was pretty typical of an evening with Jared.
But Jared was like, "Hey, Jared, would you?" And he, "Oh yeah, okay."
Yeah,
he's a great kid.
Yeah,
he's a great guy. He's a grown man.
I love Jared as long as you're not trying to start a podcast with him, which is a lie, by the way. He keeps perpetuating this lie because it's funny, but
yeah. No, I mean, whatever.
See, I'm gonna be the Reverend pretty soon.
Doubtful. Heresy.
What video game system came out that each of you were like, nah, I'm too...
Yeah, when did you realize you were done with video games?
Yeah, because you've never really
All
liked
of
video
them.
games. Okay.
Yeah.
So I was hooked when they first came out. Like we had the first Atari.
The Intellivision.
Then we had the Intellivision. And
Which,
you had the first television?
Intellivision.
Plug for Doug TenNapel. The new Intellivision is coming out with Earthworm Jim 4 that Doug TenNapel is developing.
I would obliterate everyone I knew at Intellivision. It wasn't even a competition. It was terrible. One guy I beat so bad. My brother's like, why is he doing? What's he doing? I said, he's running into those things. It was a skiing game. And he goes, yeah, but why? Why? You have to miss those. He's telling me, dude, you have to miss those things. And he goes, well, he told me to run into him. I said, no. I said, no. I said, no, I told you to miss them. And I told you to miss them. And I told you to miss them. You just are really good at running into them. So I was like, just run into him. It didn't look like you were trying to miss any of them. So I just like.
There you go.
So which system eventually are you?
Oh, for sure.
Are you still
for me?
current
I think
that you
maybe.
love them all?
You know what? The kids got me. What's the
360?
Well, the 360, but the
Wii.
No, the thing where I enjoyed the Wii.
Yeah.
The
Switch?
thing where we had the probably the 64,
Xbox, PlayStation.
No, the 64, and the
Nintendo 64.
When we got the 64, it was like, you know what?
That was like in '98 or
Yeah,
something.
I was like,
pretty old.
I
The year my wife was born.
Yeah, I really
we
don't
were
have
both
time.
playing GoldenEye.
Yeah, I don't have time to really get
Spanish
good at
one.
any of
It
it.
was it was a TV whatever. Whatever the ratings are.
I didn't have time to play it as much as they did to get good at it, and I was done. I didn't really care to. I still had friends that were like so into all this stuff, and I just didn't care to anymore. And I played with them. I did play with the kids.
I'm at now.
I always did play with the kids. Because it was fun, and listening to them squabble and stuff. And I just loved it. My daughter, I remember playing, she was really young. I remember playing with her and GoldenEye.
Yeah.
And there was some great memories playing GoldenEye because she goes, well, I'm looking for this weapon. Do you have it? No, I don't have it. Who's got it? And somebody's already got it and it's gone. And I don't know what gun they're looking for, but this gun's
It was
always
the golden
gone.
gun.
Yeah.
Totally.
And no one has it. No one has it, but it's not there. So somebody has it, right? And then my daughter, who would just run around and snipe everybody, or just run around and
Get
then
killed by brothers.
right? And then, but then somebody would, she'd be like, "Don't shoot me! I'm not shooting anybody."
Yeah, I don't have any guns.
And
That's
then,
what she would say.
Right.
She'd be
And then
running
you
around
would
with
shoot
open
her,
hands.
Then you would shoot her, and it would look like the table there. Just an explosion. The whole screen would be covered with 1,000 weapons.
Yeah, she had all the golden guns, like was dual wielding
everything.
everything, and she would like as soon as you'd get close, she'd like, "Look, I don't have any guns," and you'd turn, you'd run off, and she would just shoot you in the back.
Right. Or but
that's
every
great.
time you shot her, it was just like just an explosion of weapons.
Yeah,
So
you
it
played
was fun.
you played the 360 with us a little bit. Whenever I first got back from Canada, we played
they got
Borderlands.
the boys got me a what's the online membership for the
Xbox Live.
Xbox Live. They got that for me. So one of my sons was away in College Station, and no one was living at home, so I got on there a few times, Xbox Live, and was completely abused by people online.
Yeah, but we played Borderlands whenever I was in Canada.
Borderlands is a fantastic
It was fun.
game.
I enjoyed Borderlands.
So, but all four of us on Tuesday nights would get on. So I'd be playing from Canada. Dad would be playing it at home. Thomas was close by, and then Matt was in College Station. And that was the way that we all would hang out, is we'd get on and talk crap about each other on Borderlands.
and then the
like,
Chipmunk
formulate a
crews
plan
would go on
and-
there. These.
Yeah.
just these
Yeah.
10-year-olds,
6-year-olds.
12-year-olds. Yeah.
Yep.
Just
That was my experience with paintball. That's why I stopped playing. I played for a long time growing up,
Yeah.
and then took a long hiatus, and then got some new gear and went out to go play. And there were 8-year-olds with automatic paintball guns. And I played one game, and it was 110 degrees out, getting shot at by children. And I was like, nope, I'm out.
Yeah. This is not fun anymore.
I just took an L on that investment of the paintball gun.
Yeah. All right. Well, nearing the end of our episode, we always go into a segment we refer to as controlled rowdiness, named after our good friend Stephen Mansfield. And so we want to put our dads through our paces. We're going to do this the same way that we did with the mom. So if I ask a question, Dad, you have to answer first, and then Greg, you have to answer, and then Danley will ask the next question. The first question on tonight's docket for controlled rowdiness is, what toy did we have that you wish you could have obliterated while we were growing up?
probably the first Nintendo.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
The original NES?
The original NES. Yeah, that one, because it would. No. The one. Where are the ones that you have to save? When did you start having to
64,
save?
Nintendo 64.
That
was
thing.
my favorite
Because
console.
we would be getting ready to go somewhere. You need to. Let's go. And then, I can't go right now. I've got to save the game. I'm like, okay, well, save the game. I can't save it from here. I have to get to whatever. 20 minutes later, like, I can't save it yet. I'm like, you know what?
Unplugged.
I'm about to sledgehammer this thing.
The Nintendo 64. The Nintendo 64 caused a rule in our house known as the wheel chalk rule.
Yes, indeed.
Which is where if we fought over a game, my dad would. Now our driveway was on this really horrible incline. And so if we fought over a game, what would happen is he would take the game and he would push it under the rear tire of the Suburban and then put the Suburban in neutral. And if the game could keep the Suburban up for 10 seconds, then we could keep it. But if it couldn't, then we lost the game. And so we were like, no, he's not going to really do it, blah, blah. We were fighting over Clay Fighters 63 1/3. And he took it out of the console while the console was still on, right? And so the snowman is like,
that's a no-no. That's a no-no.
Yeah, there's strike number one.
Yeah, he took it out, then just walked right outside, didn't say a word, took the game, put it underneath the tire, and took a little hammer and went tink, 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 and hammered it in underneath it. And we were just all like, what are you? And he goes, do you want to rethink anything before we start? Yes. So we begged for forgiveness. We got grounded for a week each, and we were happy to do so. Yeah. But we never fought over anything.
I don't remember ever actually having to carry it out, but that sounds very authentic.
Yeah,
about the way that I would have done it.
I might steal it.
It's a great.
Although now all games are downloaded digitally, so I'm not.
Just take the hard drive,
or
take the hard drive,
or the controller.
Yeah, those are expensive.
Controllers are not easy to come by.
That's true. That's true.
It's not a bad dad move to have a little threat, as long as you're willing to. As long as they think you're crazy enough to back it up.
Yeah, and we did. We were convinced. Yeah. All right, Greg. What toy of Danley's did you want to obliterate while he was growing up?
It was probably somewhat apocryphal here at the table because everyone else is such a video game fanatic apparently. But to me, it was kind of all the video games, but especially it wasn't even the specific video game as much as just the concept of the video games. Because I would come in, and everyone would be on the video game, and there would be an Ethernet cable connected to the video game, and going out the door, and out the backyard, and over the fence, and into the next house.
Neighborhood play.
And up.
That's how you got to play with Kyle.
Yeah, and Kyle was on the other end of it in there, and that cable would be there for a month at a time connected to the house.
I think it was
gotta get rid of this.
Battlefield and Halo.
Yeah, Halo for sure.
Yeah,
because you can have the LAN parties with Halo. You know, Kyle has been it's been 9 months since Kyle's been on the show because he has had the massive Quantums, just the worst bad bathroom that there has ever been. So hashtag continue to pray for Kyle.
Kyle, you're welcome for making that public.
Yeah. Sorry, Kyle.
Okay,
sorry for you.
Were you ever worried I was going to end up gay?
Yes. No. I had other worries, but that was not one of them.
No, I was just testosterone fueled right out of the gate. just super manly.
That was
and,
never on the list.
Yeah.
and also, we're not haters. Okay. No, I'm just kidding.
That's it. That's it.
I
So-
hate everybody.
Equally.
Yeah.
Okay, seriously.
No, well, Scott's got to answer
Oh, yeah,
the
yeah.
I
question.
have to answer that one.
Yeah. Did
Oh,
you
okay.
ever think Danley was going to end up gay?
I did for a long time. He was
was
obsessed with
hanging
he was obsessed with Jared's tattoo. This is really disturbing.
I love those wings.
No, so now Lucas's mom and I would discuss this, right? And what is wrong with this girl? Well, these girls would be throwing themselves this direction. I'd be like, what's wrong with her? And Amy would go, I don't know. I mean, she seems okay. And Lucas would just be like, no. So, but no, not really.
But I always could articulate what was wrong with them.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Which was the problem.
Yeah. So no.
What
not really.
was wrong with them?
So it would depend, right? So I was very particular.
Okay, so mental.
Okay.
Completely mental.
Danley knows. There's a lady in our church that will do this, right? Because there was a girl that I was thinking about dating, and I was like, I can't do it. And she's like, why? And I was like, her face isn't symmetrical. She was like, what? And I was like, she looks great from either profile, but her jaw is just a little on edge. And she did that. And the first time that she saw Kirsten, the same lady goes, well, what do you think about her? Her face is pretty symmetrical. And I looked at her and I was like, yeah, we were already dating. She's like, yeah, well done. Well done.
Yeah, so it was pretty much when Kirsten walked in and like accepted any of his advances. I was like, okay, if she sticks around, it's game over.
Yeah.
There's no doubt.
And she did. She did.
Good job.
Thank you.
I approve.
Well, that's what we were all hoping for. Is once Danley stand up, and actually Greg got to meet her and hang out with her a little bit this weekend. On Sunday night, we went over for dinner with May.
For a mass birthday party.
It was a huge birthday party. She also got to meet the Beaches
And Granny.
And Calvin.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So the Beaches, the Ivors, Granny was really the winner in all of that.
Yeah. She usually is.
Yeah, getting to meet Granny was probably the highlight of Kirsten's evening.
Tell them about with Chris and Granny, because I think that really highlights Granny's essence.
Yeah. So Chris, who is your new brother-in-law, we talked about on the Mama-sode. We talked a little bit about this wedding and how that was like your mom's proudest moment was when you took up for her, and this was leading up to this wedding, right?
Yep.
So Chris introduces me to Granny. He's like, "Hey, Granny, this is Lucas." And Granny goes, I know who Lucas is. I've been his granny since he was a little boy. She gives me a big hug. He's like, okay, I'm sorry. I didn't know. And she goes, I realized that, Chris. I was like, I don't know what just happened right now. And Danley's looking at me and he's like, hey, come over here. Yeah, I want to get out of the line of fire here.
100% Granny.
Yeah,
That is Granny.
definitely.
Perfect.
To the T. What car that you have driven do you wish you had back?
Oh, that's easy for me. This is my Trans Am.
Yeah.
Yeah, easy for me.
It was a 1980 and a half.
Yeah, 1980 turbo Trans Am. It was not fast. The motor was just, the design mechanically was just gosh awful. But I loved the car because my brother bought the car new, and I was with him the day he bought the car. And it came in on the trailer, and I'm like, hey, there's a turbo Trans Am on the trailer they're bringing in, and on the car hollering. And the salesman's like, well, no, we don't have one. And my brother and I go, no, there it goes. And he bought that car. It came in. It didn't even get the pinstripes put on it. It had the eagle, and all this, all the stuff.
Firebird on the.
Yeah. So anyway, so my brother got married, and then he was selling the car. And my dad, I was junior or senior in high school, and my dad bought the car from my brother, and he was like, well, you're gonna have to help make payments. And we had our own shop, and I worked at the shop with my dad and our family. And I think I might have we owed, at that time, it was a 3-year car note. It was a 1.5 year commitment we had to make on that thing.
Wow.
Yeah. And I think I made maybe 2 payments myself and my dad, But anyway, it was So that car, we lost it in a
You
house
paid the
fire.
$19 a month.
I did.
Yeah.
I did. I remember how much the payment was on the car, a whole 9 yards. But my dad,
What was the payment on the
it was
car?
$272 a month.
Wow.
Okay.
$272.86. Yeah, it was high, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's a very expensive car back in the day.
My first truck that I bought, the payment was $451.21, and I remember just like every month having to write that check. So
Write
yeah,
a
we
check.
lost.
You're so old.
That was terrible. But we did. We lost that car in
And a house
fire.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so I'd kept the car, and man, the car's been stolen, and we recovered it, and just it'd been through so many things, and it meant a lot to me because my dad got it for me. My parents, my mom and dad got it for me, so it meant a lot to me, and I planned on keeping it forever. We had a house fire, and we lost it in a house fire. I was accumulating stuff because my plan was for the kids to be able to take it to prom, and always and do all that stuff, because it was a car that I had whenever their mom and I met. So anyway,
That's too bad.
yeah,
Yep.
so
Sounds like a great car.
but you know what? Well, yeah, but like all the things we couldn't replace, we still have. Like the car is just a car.
Yeah.
Long story short, it's just a car. The sentiment behind it and all that stuff. I mean, yeah, love my parents, everything they did for me. But it's just a car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Pop? You got any?
I'd say there's 3 different cars, and I'm having trouble deciding which. They're kind of all, pretty much every car I've ever had was my favorite car. But the first favorite car was the first thing that I drove when I got my license. When I turned 16 and a minute, I was driving the banana yellow Ford 1967 pickup truck that my dad gave me. And it was
right.
the ugliest thing. Honestly, it was just banana yellow. I should have been ashamed to drive this silly thing, but it was my wheels.
It was freedom.
Yeah.
I mean, the instant I had my
your
license,
ride.
I was in that truck and I was driving all over Richardson, and because
Yeah.
there were only like 11 cars on the road back then.
Picking up Coke cans to.
So I mean,
You can get money for them.
so there was the emotional attachment to that, like you said, the one
Yeah.
that your dad gives you.
Yeah.
Let's see. After that, we sold that and whatever, or traded it in for the $97 it was worth in the trade in. I got a 1972 Mustang, and that's what I drove from 18 from in my senior year of college, senior year in high school for however long I rode. Loved it. I mean, it's a Mustang, and it was in the years it didn't really look like the Mustang, the classic Mustang. It was kind of the messed up 1970s style of Mustangs when they were bigger and
Charlie's Angels. Charlie's
but
Angels.
it was
Yeah.
great. I loved that car, and then later on in life, after I got my first not my first real job, but when I started the company that I was with for a while, and I bought myself a Cadillac, and it was a Cadillac Seville.
I figured
Nice.
that would make
The
the
Cadillac
list.
Seville
Yeah.
with it's just this, sleek. It would because it wasn't like I guess it was a Seville. Is that right?
Seville or Deville?
It was smaller.
yeah, yeah.
It's Cruella
sleeker.
DeVille.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was a Seville. Anyway,
Yeah,
but it was a car.
It's
It was a man's
It's
car.
a Cadillac.
And it was
Yeah.
just smooth.
And it was
and
black too, right?
Yeah, it was black, and I had it just from that standpoint, it was like I had made it. I was driving a Cadillac, and then ultimately after that, I got into my trucks, and I haven't looked back since then. Because then
Yeah,
now it's like,
Danley-
I've done all that stuff.
That's
Danley
where I'm
actually
at.
thought your answer to this question was going to be the car I'm driving right now because it's the nicest thing I've driven.
A Hemi truck.
Yeah.
Like you-
Well,
The Suburban.
I'm not.
For us, once I got
never.
into Suburban, I never wanted anything else.
I'm never going back from trucks. I just love
Yeah,
trucks now.
they're
So.
just they're too functional and nice. And
Danley, isn't there something about your dad's Hemi truck that you wanted to tell him?
no,
interesting. Interesting.
it's super fast.
You don't have to tell. You don't have to tell. You can just tell. You can just tell me.
As I'm sure that my brother and I have both found out
Yeah.
You could just-
separately that it's very fast.
You can just tell me. You don't have to tell him.
yeah. Just tell Scott.
I drove it fast. That's the story.
I missed the Solstice. The
Yeah.
little Pontiac, and then I had a 1976 Chevette.
Ooh.
That the first thing I ever really wheeled and dealed on.
Yeah.
That I would love to just drive one more time.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I bought it for $75 from a company that had a fleet of these things that had no air conditioning, and it was a standard, and they thought the motor was blown up. Everybody thought the motor was blown up, and that's why I got it for $75. It just had a bad pulley on the crankshaft. So I replaced a crankshaft pulley. And
By the way, is there a funnier word?
Crankshaft.
Car related.
Only Danley. Stop down on that one right there. Anyway, that was it. So yeah, no, I ended up selling the motor back to this company for $200 because I bought the car for $75. I replaced that. I sold the motor back to the company for $200. And then I told him, hey, it's the motor that came out of this other car. It was just this thing. And oh, well, good for you. So we want to buy it. So $200. so then they paid our shop to put it in. And then
what a racket.
Then I sold the transmission and the clutch out of it. So now I have this car that has no motor, that I bought for $75, and I've sold the pieces off for about $100 or for about $300 now. And then I bought a wrecked Chevette from a wrecking yard that was a 4-door and had an automatic transmission and air conditioning.
And a really nice crankshaft.
And a really fine crankshaft. Put it all together, and I hopped the motor up just a hair. We put a header on it and a 2-barrel Holly carburetor, and we went around in this little bitty Chevette, and I used to drag race Volkswagens in it. Because everybody, back in the day, everybody would hop up their little bugs or whatever, and they, none of them would ever lose to a Chevette. A Chevette was just an embarrassment, and so I would go out there in that thing and just drag them all over town. So I would like to drive that car one more time, and then we sold the car for $975.
It's not a bad return overall.
No. So yeah, it was a fun little car. I'd like to drive it one more time.
Okay, you have a time machine, and you get to go back in time and give yourself one piece of advice for raising me. What would it be? Younger Greg, this is what you really need to know.
Yep.
Put them back.
Good night, everybody.
Good job, Colton.
That's the beauty of having like an actual producer.
Just little bit.
He does.
It's the subtlety.
It's really it's his second trick. You suck him in with his first trick with the Michael Jackson story, then everybody forgets that he's there, and it's trick number 2 that really gets everybody.
If he could have done it in the Michael Jackson voice, the only way it could have been anyway.
Try it. The first time.
As soon as you find out it's a he.
Problems over there.
We almost had a spit take.
We did. We almost did.
The first time I heard Colton's Michael Jackson voice, we were moving this desk that weighs like 350 pounds, and I'm in this really awkward position, and we had moved all of these, like we had used a bunch of blankets to scoot it on the tile floor that's in the church, and I'm moving it, and he pulls the blanket, and the blanket slips out of his hand, and he's like, oh no, a blanket hasn't slipped like that since I dangled my baby over a rail. And I was like, it's in such a bad spot to be holding this desk. Colton is like literally, he's just ripped out. He's like just ripped out the blanket. He's holding on to nothing. I'm holding this thing in like the worst position ever, trying not to start laughing and kill myself. And he's like, hold on, buddy. Gosh.
Hold on, blanket.
I was gonna say it's bad with the name too, right?
Yeah, as soon as he grabs the desk back, he's like, "It's okay, Daddy's got you." Oh my gosh!
Entertaining.
Did you ever answer the question?
Somewhat terrifying, but very funny.
Yeah.
No, he's been thinking.
I'm thinking.
There's a lot.
I'm looking for like the funny things, but honestly, I think I would take all of that entertainment that we just went through, and I'd stop it back down to a little more serious answer, and that is, you were my first. You're not as good as being a father on your first as you are later on when you have more practice.
So true.
And I would say, I would tell the younger me, look for the moments, look for things to invest in. I learned that lesson more. And you know, and we had times where I invested times and I did things when you were later, but earlier on I didn't know that. It wasn't like I lived at the office and never spent time, but it's like cultivate moments, look for opportunities, look for things that otherwise they're going to pass by and say, I wish I had done that and I didn't. So that I think honestly that would be what I would go back and whisper in my ear and say, don't miss this. That's going to be a good thing. Don't let that go and go do something that you're not going to care about 10 years from now.
Yeah,
that's very wise.
I try to.
I'm trying to learn that too. You know, with my son, that we had Justin Batt from Daddy Daycare,
Daddy Saturday,
yeah,
Daddy Saturday,
where he has an intentional day a week that he structures it like he does his work. You know, that there's certain hours that you're doing this, and he structures that so the kids get time with him, and he does things that they like to do and investing in them, and I think it's a really cool idea. But but I'm with you. That's cool.
What about
That's
you?
good advice for anybody.
What you Papa Cap?
For me, I would say
that was his rapping name.
My rapper name. Everybody had to have a rapper name.
Yeah,
so that was
mine is D Hoop.
Yeah,
mine was Papa Cap. You know, you got to go big, right?
Yeah.
So, I really like what Greg said.
You can't steal it. You got to do your
you know,
own.
I've got mine ready, Danley.
Okay, good.
But you know,
we're waiting.
I just feel like with what he said, take advantage of the moments that you have. So critical, so important. I remember one of my favorite things would be coming home from work, and I would be exhausted. I wouldn't even be able to get my shoes off, and I would just get mobbed, you know, at the door. And man, it was the greatest thing. It was fantastic. So, but for me, I would say we did this thing one year where we let the kids buy their own. I don't remember if they bought their own gift.
We
gave
bought
them
our own
money.
big gift. Yeah.
Anyway,
this was the year I wanted to buy a bass and wasn't allowed to. My dad made me buy a guitar first.
Right, I did.
Good.
I did. I did because I played bass, and I didn't want him playing bass just because he wanted to play bass just because I played bass.
And how are you going to start a family band?
Right.
You're all playing bass.
Everybody's
playing
14
bass.
bass players up there.
It's like the Wooten family.
I mean, so anyway, and I didn't play that great, but the thing is, I really wanted him. I tried explaining it. Said everything you're going to do on the guitar will translate over to the bass. It will 100% translate over to the bass. And I think this, if you want in a year or whenever, you know, we'll revisit it. I think when you want to play the bass, if you still want to play the bass, then you know, everything you learn now is going to be spot on. And I think this is going to make you a better bass player. And so he bought all that.
So being a good guitar player makes a good bass player?
No,
I played guitar for a
absolutely
year.
not.
And then put it in a corner in a case.
See, I'm just weaponizing your nice thought.
Yeah, no. You're
Against my friend.
You're trying to, but so I'm going to revisit that and say my big mistake was if I had something I had a chance to redo something. Hindsight, I would go out and get him the bass the first go around, because when he picked it up, it was something
Did he immediately just start slapping it?
No, but he excelled at it really quick.
Yeah.
And the bass.
Well, I mean, literally slapping it. I mean,
Yeah.
you know,
No. He excelled at it really quick, but he fiddled with it constantly, and he may have, but he was, you know, and I could show him how to make some really basic sounds and stuff. But then once he started getting more into different influences that he really liked, what's that basketball player's name? I can never remember.
Wayman Tisdale.
Gosh, that's been bugging me. I forgot. Anyway, so
just unrelated.
No,
Wayman Tisdale.
Wayman Tisdale, Hall of Fame basketball player, and also a Grammy Award-winning bassist.
Yeah,
Okay.
Sick. Absolutely. He's passed away now, but he phenomenal. I think of him as a phenomenal bass player. He was a good basketball
Did you do
player.
it at the same time?
Actually, he did do it at the same time.
Yeah, when they would go to Chicago, he would show up. He would take his bass and he would show up and just play sessions.
Yeah, but he was just
No.
he
We're
was-
talking about on the court.
yes.
You know, he
Time.
Playing
I think
defense
he did.
while
I
he
think
was
that-
laying the line
he
down.
would, you know, like, yeah. So,
He's just pulling up Bob Babbitt lines as he's going down.
yeah, it was just
Okay.
the guy is a phenomenal bassist. But anyway, all these different influences and different people that influenced him, and you could see him trying to mimic it. And I mean, you always want your kid to find the thing. Like you feel like everybody.
Mine is cocaine.
Is it? Yeah. So you feel like everybody has their thing, and yours is that. But it was like this magical moment. Like, good job, Greg.
Greg's about to go give himself Colton's advice.
I'm revisiting Colton's advice right now.
I've never been spanked in my life.
So, but I was thinking about I have another son that loves reptiles. He's crazy about reptiles. I have another son that is phenomenal with
Tires.
mechanical things.
Yeah.
He loves, and right now I have a car engine at his house that we're going to build there at his house, and his son is 4 now and will probably be in the way and in the middle of everything, and I cannot wait.
And then your daughter's a girl.
My daughter's a girl, and that's where my car is. And she and I will probably go over there. And if I ever do have any kind of social media presence, it'll be while I'm doing the body work on that car at her house with her, because she's already.
And she'll probably do the painting and the pinstriping on it because she's a phenomenal artist.
So yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to doing all those things with my kids as adults. But you want them to find their thing. And the minute he got the bass in his hand, I was like, should have got this first. Because I was concerned, because the bass can be kind of a boring instrument, especially for me.
Super boring.
For me. So for me and for you, clearly we're not very good at the bass.
I'm awesome at it. I play guitar. I can automatically play bass.
For bass players, no, not a chance. So Leonard
He's not
Skinner
biting.
tried a thing with their guitarist. They got rid of the bass player, and then the lead guy for Leonard Skinner's out there and fishing one night, begging the bass player to come back to the band.
Because he has a truck.
And the guitar
exactly
guy
right.
is killing us.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
anyway.
but I will have to say that in particular, though, that was something that was, I think for me, it motivated me to learn the guitar, which has served me really well in all of my pastoral ministry, because there's at least some point where the worship leader calls in sick, and you can't lead worship. I just squeaked. You can't. You can't. It's like my grandmother's singing voice.
It's pretty cool, though, when the pastor at your church is also typically the best guitarist at the church, and for certain the best bass player at the church. By a long. So at 14 years
pretty
old.
cool.
So yeah, we got it at 13.
I was 15 when I got the bass.
Were you 15?
15.
Okay, so then he hasn't turned 16 yet, and I'm taking him to do studio sessions with in less than a year. He's had it less than a year. I'm taking him to do studio sessions at a local music studio, where the groups would come in. They would play songs. They would play their music, and if they didn't have a bass line that they were really comfortable with, then Ron would call me. We'd go over, or Tammy or somebody, one of us would go over with Lucas. We'd pick up a CD that had no bass track on it. All the music would be laid down on it, no bass track, because they didn't want him to have any preconceived idea about what should be on there. And it was everything from like one of my favorite songs. I wanted a copy of it. I regret that I don't have a copy of it. But it was probably 90% percussion, African style, and he put a bass line down for that at 15, and did it. He heard it one time. I don't remember hearing him play it in his room more than one time. He may have played it more than one time, but I do know when we went to the studio, once we got to the studio, he played it one time, and then we left.
That's how I got his name, One Take Lukey.
Yeah,
So,
that was,
I mean,
that
it
was
was
pretty close. Yeah,
Yeah, and that just doesn't happen.
and
a
I go.
lot.
He was the songwriter for Leanne Rhymes and had a local studio, and we had a ton of fun with him. He went to our church for a little while.
Yeah.
That's how we initially met him.
To wrap up.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Go ahead.
one thing, I was pre-gaming on my way over here.
Oh goodness.
Just
And-
chugging
Chugging
Red Bull.
Red Bull.
No, I was pre-gaming on my way over here with some Jerry Reed.
Hey, there we go.
I know everybody here. You're all
We're all
music
familiar,
lovers,
yeah.
all music connoisseurs,
Music lover.
And I was listening to Amos Moses.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was like, Amos Moses, and I've been listening to a lot of Stevie Wonder lately.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think he's blind?
Pass.
We did say pass would be acceptable on any of our questions beforehand.
Pass.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So, but sure, I'm sure he is, right?
Right. Sure.
I don't know. There's evidence of the contrary.
Just stick
but-
with pass. Stick with pass. Don't step in that bear trap. Yeah. Stick with pass.
So moving on. But, so I just want your right off the cuff thoughts. This doesn't have to be anything with this.
Yeah.
But, just Superstition and Amos Moses. You take the guitar parts for that, and they are just this stylistically and stuff. There's just not a dime worth of difference between the two, in my opinion.
I need to go listen to it.
Yeah, I kind of know Amos Moses, but I'd have to go back and listen to it because it's probably been forever since I heard it.
I'm listening to the guitar and the way he's just vibing on the thing. I'm like, man, this could easily transfer over.
Oh yeah.
To any Motown sound, any.
I'm playing it in my head.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, and just the rhythm part and the guy. And besides all that,
Jerry Reed was so good.
Reed was ridiculous on the guitar.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. So anyway.
Did you ever hear that? There's a story about Elvis covering one of his songs, Guitar Man, and they couldn't figure out the guitar part, and so they called Jerry Reed. It's like 11 o'clock at night. They wake him up.
No, they went to the river and got him.
Oh, they went to the
lake
yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah,
He was
they called
fishing.
and he wasn't there, and then they had to go find him fishing.
Yeah.
And then they get him in the studio, and they're like, "We need you to play the guitar part for Guitar Man." And he was like, "Okay." And he sits down and starts playing. He's like, "You're gonna have to give me a minute. I don't know how I did this."
took it like an hour to remember how he even played the part.
Yep. And then he.
I understand.
Yeah, and then he nailed it, and then but they were like,
And they went back to fishing.
So
nobody else on the planet.
that's what
could do
the
that.
guys in the studio are like. The only way and Elvis was like, I want that Jerry Reed sound, and finally the studio musicians are like, the only way we're going to get that is to get Jerry Reed in here because we can't figure out what the heck he did.
Yep.
And then he got in there and he couldn't figure out what the heck he did.
But Jerry Reed did a song called "The Claw." He wrote it.
Yeah.
Which is kind of the holy grail for guitarists and to have that kind of ability. It's finger picking, but it's finger picking on nuclear
ridiculous.
power.
Yeah.
Lee Harden attempted the claw.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So
Rest in peace, Lee Harden's YouTube channel.
do you know who else was they might not remember, but who was a phenomenal did all kind of kitschy country music stuff, but phenomenal guitar player. Jim Stafford.
Oh yeah.
It was insane. He
Don't know Jim Stafford.
He did some just like it wasn't real. His I don't even know how to describe his music. It was the stuff he was really popular for. But as far as a guitarist goes, he did. I watched him on the Tonight Show one time. He was doing Korg just released one of their tricked out guitar things.
A keytar?
Yeah, something.
We've already discussed our policy of guitars on this show.
So it wasn't actually a keytar, but it was some of the Korg crazy nonsense stuff. And he played Flight of the Bumblebee.
Ooh.
Wow.
And it was incredible. And that was the first time
Except
I was like,
it was on a keytar.
Yeah, it was
Well,
actually.
no, it sounds like it was on like a guitar synthesizer.
No, it was a guitar synthesizer. Yeah. It was. He was picking the strings, and it was
crazy.
I was like, man, that guy's phenomenal.
Yeah, I've always heard that Glenn Campbell was
Well, I was going to say, if we're talking great guitarists that a lot of people don't know, is Glenn Campbell. Because Glenn Campbell, in addition to being Glenn Campbell, as a recording artist,
he was more than just
he was part of the Wrecking
Crew.
Yeah,
and he played on tons of 60s and 70s hits. You have no idea it's Glenn Campbell. You think it's the guy in the band.
Have you seen the documentary?
Oh yeah,
on that. Oh, it's so good.
That.
And he was in Evil Dead, and Army of Darkness, and
Glenn Campbell was.
Was he playing guitar?
Bruce Campbell.
Bruce Campbell. I was waiting for it. I was waiting. I was taking
Bruce
the
Campbell
bait.
can play guitar.
No, with that chainsaw for a hand.
Thank you for coming on.
Hey, thanks, guys.
The Reverend and the Reprobate.
Do we
Actually,
get to
you guys
keep the bullets?
No, the bullets go with me. Those are expensive.
They're like $1 a piece right now.
Gold right now.
We had a working title that you came up with. I forgot it already, but
Yeah,
thanks for tuning in.
when
for
I edit
whatever
the
that
episode,
was.
we'll figure out what it is.
Or bullets, beer, butter cups, and t-shirt and buttholes.
This is Scott Pinkard, father of the Reverend, of the Reverend and the Reprobate show. And if your son is a Reverend and his best friend is known as the Reprobate, it's probably not a show you want to listen to. So, yeah, do like me. Don't listen. I never listen. Does anybody else listen?
No.
No. Judging by the metrics, no. I mean, I feel like y'all owe me an hour and a half now.
My name is Greg Gibson. I'm Danley's father. I love him tremendously, but I never listened to his show. And I would think that you probably have a lot of things that are really important in your life to do, and this would not be one of them. So go do those things because you'll be much happier.
Wish I would have said that.